Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to do something really fun today. We are going on a fascinating journey to look at our dogs in a way we honestly rarely do. We're going to start right at the very tips of their outer fur and travel all the way down into their internal nutrition. It's an outside-in look. And by the end of this Explainer, you're going to have a completely new understanding of how biology, grooming, and diet all work together to keep your dog healthy.
So what is your dog's coat actually trying to tell you? You know, when you're petting your dog and you feel a dull, dry patch, or maybe you notice they're shedding way more than usual, it's incredibly easy to just blame the weather, right? Or kind of just think, oh, it's time for a bath. But a dog's outward appearance is actually an intricate communication tool. It literally bridges the gap between what we can see on the outside and the hidden, microscopic metabolic processes happening on the inside.
There's this fantastic quote from the pet food crafters at Bertie and Louie that hits the nail on the head. They say, appearance often tells the story of what's happening on the inside. And that's so true. That glossy, show-stopping coat you see on a really healthy dog, it isn't just a matter of good grooming. Not at all. It is a direct reflection of a well-oiled biological machine. It's a sign that their cells are regenerating properly, their inflammation is low, and their diet is perfectly tuned.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the fur surface and its ancient wolf origins.
To truly understand the fur you're petting right now, we actually have to take a trip back roughly 35,000 years to ancient wolves. Research into canine genomes reveals that the incredible diversity of coat colors, patterns, and textures we see today, that was all laid down by natural selection way back in the late Pleistocene era. So, that fur is a highly sophisticated ancient survival tool. Now, people often use the words fur and hair interchangeably, but there's a really distinct biological difference here. On one hand, you have the fur coat, which is a double coat. Think of a big, fluffy Newfoundland. It has these stiff guard hairs on top to repel water, and then a soft, downy undercoat underneath for insulation. On the other hand, you have the hair coat, which is a single coat. Think of a poodle. They only have those guard hairs and little to no undercoat at all. And you know, that specific coat type directly impacts shedding. Dogs with those thick double coats will often blow their coats seasonally. But it's not just the season. Artificial indoor lighting and temperature can completely alter a dog's shedding pattern. Plus, hormonal changes play a huge role. Furthermore, shedding is highly dictated by genetics. For example, dogs that possess the genetic allele for facial furnishings, you know, those super cute wire-haired beards and eyebrows, well, they are generally low shedding.
Moving right along. Section 2, external maintenance. Let's talk about grooming and health.
Because honestly, no matter what kind of coat your dog has inherited from its wolf ancestors, almost all dogs require some form of grooming. And this isn't just about looking pretty. It's to prevent painful matting that pulls tightly on the skin, which can lead directly to irritation and disease. Now, what's really fascinating is how our approach to grooming has evolved over time. In ancient Egypt, dogs were cleansed and groomed for worship. Then, jump to the 1620s and we see practical utility taking over. Hunters were trimming curly-coated retrievers so they could swim and retrieve more efficiently. But by the 1700s, grooming became this massive status symbol. King Louis XVI of France actually helped popularize those highly creative and, let's be honest, slightly ridiculous cosmetic poodle trims.
But hey, some grooming methods are still purely practical today, like hand stripping. If you have a terrier or a spaniel, their wiry hair grows to a maximum length and then it just dies. Hand stripping actually coordinates that shedding process. You simply identify the dead hair, grip the top coat with your fingers or a stripping knife, and pull that dead hair right out to reveal the dense, soft undercoat beneath. I know, it sounds intense, but if done correctly, it is entirely painless. It simply makes room for a healthy new coat to grow in.
Okay, let's go a layer deeper. Section 3, beneath the coat, looking at skin disorders.
Beneath the coat is where we really start to see the consequences of neglected grooming, environmental allergens, and internal imbalances. The skin is the foundation of the coat, right? And when things go wrong here, the physical symptoms are incredibly uncomfortable for our dogs. To keep things simple, we can break canine skin disorders down into 3 clear categories. First, immune-mediated issues. Think atopic dermatitis, which is essentially the dog version of human eczema, making them incredibly itchy. Second, physical or environmental problems, which are largely driven by a dog compulsively licking or biting a specific area. And third, infectious diseases. These are caused by uninvited guests like fleas, fungal ringworm, or Malassea yeast overgrowth.
So the crucial point here is understanding just how rapidly these issues can escalate. And this is perfectly demonstrated by the dreaded hotspot. This is acute moist dermatitis, and let me tell you, it can spread in a matter of hours. A dog gets a tiny itch, bites at it, and boom, a secondary staphylococcus infection gets trapped right under the hair. Dogs with thick undercoats are highly susceptible here, and treating this often means having to clip the hair away entirely and get them on some antibiotics.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next point, Section 4, the internal engine and their nutritional foundation.
We've looked at the ancient genetics of the fur, the external maintenance, and the skin beneath. Now we are diving into the internal nutrition that literally builds that skin and coat from the cellular level up. Let's play biological detective for a second. If your dog has dry, flaky skin, they might need zinc to aid collagen development. If their coat is losing its rich color and turning white prematurely, a copper deficiency might actually be halting their pigmentation. Vitamin A is your ultimate cell regenerator, and omega-3 fatty acids, which you often find in fish oil, are the absolute best defense against inflammation and constant scratching.
So how do we actually get those nutrients into the engine? Superfoods. Chicken liver is an absolute powerhouse for vitamin A and B vitamins. Sweet potatoes provide beta-carotene. Spinach delivers iron and magnesium for healthy blood circulation to the hair follicles, and blueberries offer amazing antioxidants to fight cellular aging. And remember, hydrating wet foods like pâté styles that incorporate these kinds of ingredients are super vital, because a dehydrated dog is always going to have a dull coat.
Finally, let's talk about the golden years. Section 5, Aging Gracefully and the Senior Dog Diet.
Just like us humans, as dogs age, their bodies change. They usually hit senior status around age 7, and when that happens, their whole metabolic engine shifts dramatically. Think about this number for a second, 25%. That is how much a senior dog's maintenance energy requirement can decrease. Because aging dogs naturally lose lean body mass, they simply don't burn calories the way they used to. This fundamental shift means if we keep feeding them the exact same diet they were eating at age 3, they are highly likely to become obese, which puts a terrible, terrible strain on their aging joints. So, obviously we have to make some adjustments. First off, surprisingly, while they do need fewer calories overall, they actually need more high-quality protein to combat the loss of protein synthesis. Second, as the cartilage in their joints wears down to that painful bone-on-bone friction, adding glucosamine and chondroitin really helps rebuild and lubricate those joints. And finally, adding fiber sources like beet pulp and flaxseed keeps their entire gastrointestinal tract moving smoothly.
We also absolutely cannot forget about defending the aging brain and immune system from oxidative stress. Adding vitamin E and the amino acid L-carnitine supports mitochondrial function in the brain, which is huge for helping with their memory and learning. And to keep that immune system strong without accidentally causing chronic inflammation, a careful, precise ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids, ideally right around 5:1, is highly recommended.
Which leaves us with a really vital question. Based on what you've learned today, how will you adjust your dog's care routine? From 35,000-year-old fur genetics all the way down to the zinc and omega-3s in their bowl, you now hold the blueprint to their health. It's time to inspect their diet, reevaluate their grooming, and start truly supporting their health from the inside out. Thanks for joining me on this Explain